is it? Sorry, give me 1 second. So, okay, thank you. So we'll
Thank you
start.
for
Sorry. Okay, we'll start. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sha Shri Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukum karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripatamaham bande Shri Gurundi Natarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Wonderful. Thank you all. This is a full quorum here. Very grateful for all of you joining today. Again, extremely grateful for accommodating the request to move this on Sunday. Thank you so much. I am going to share my screen. We partially covered text 34, so I'm going to start from there. Where did it go? Yeah. Can you see my screen?
yes.
Okay, beautiful. We'll start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Om Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Om
Bhagavate
Namo
Vasudevaya.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So, we are on the section we started last week talking about two kind of people who follow the path which has been set up by the god, or another people who do not follow, and what is the result of that. So with that, we actually kind of covered some of the 34 words, but we want to start just to cover that aspect, so please follow along. Indriya sendriya stha Indriya syarthe.
Indriya
Yendriya Yasthate.
Yeah, it's difficult. Don't worry about it because it's a whole word. So please forgive me about it. Raga dvesho vyavastito
Ragadvesho
Ragadeshu
Vivastito.
Vyavasitu
tayo navasamaggachet
Tayo
Tayona Vasam
Navasamagatse.
Jagatite
tauhi asya pantino.
Tahi Asya
Tahi
Paripantinam.
Rasya Paripantanam.
So just to talk about, this world is full of dualities, which means I like, I don't like, I dislike, cold, and then winter, summer, happiness, distress. So, with that, to connect with the previous verse which we covered last week, is Maya, which is actually the illusory energy of the Lord. Maya is not just a person name, but Maya is actually the illusory energy of the Lord. So, there are three energies of the Lord which we discussed before. The first energy is called as external energy. The first Shakti is called as internal energy. Internal energy is which is through which Krishna maintains the spiritual world. Spiritual world is like more than 75% of the size of this material world. So you can imagine we are completely insignificant. So internal energy through which Krishna maintains the spiritual world. Second energy is the external energy. So these are two poles of the whatever we call it as. So one is internal energy which maintains the spiritual world, another else energy called as external energy which maintains the material world where we belong to, and that is controlled by Maya, that is controlled by the illusory energy of the Lord. And then the in between is the tathastha sakti or marginal energy, which is actually jiva, which is all of us living entities. So we are actually in between, and we covered multiple times. Though we are superior to material energy, which is inferior, but we are covered by material energy when we identify ourselves with this material world. And that is what is being mentioned here. Maya, despite one's intelligence, is interested with the potency to push a conditioned soul away from Krishna consciousness. Now, this is very important actually, because when we came from spiritual world, when we came to material world, we became conditioned. What is the meaning of conditioning? Like a rainwater which falls from the cloud, it is pure, but when it touches the mud, it becomes muddy. So it's not that the water is muddy, but water coming in association with mud has now become muddy. That's not the constitutional nature, or that is not the original nature of water which came from sky. So similar way, when we came from spiritual world, we were pure living entities, but now we are conditioned with the material energy because we are covered by the modes of material nature, which we talked about extensively last week. So that's why, being conditioned, we cannot see things as they are. We cannot see God as He is. We cannot understand God as He is. Because, like a mirror which is covered by dust, does not reflect the original person who is actually seeing a reflection of him or her in the mirror. So, what is the soul? The soul is covered with the unwanted things, which is kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mat, matsarya, which is the six enemies or six unwanted things which covers the soul. So, this verse is specifically covering the question, if we all are helplessly forced to act according to our nature, what is the use of so many rules in the Shastra to regulate our activities? Because a lot of people have this thought, oh, you know what? Anyhow, I don't have anything in control. So what difference does it make? Why should I actually acquire knowledge to actually get away from that position? And this verse is basically focusing on that piece. Can someone read the translation? Sorry, I forgot to put the
Yeah, I can.
translation.
Yeah,
Please,
I can read. Yeah,
please.
there are there are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to the senses and their objects. One should not come under the control of such attachments and aversions because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization.
Ah, beautiful. Thank you for reading that. So, when we talk about the attachment to this world in terms of I, me, and mine, in perception with senses, mind, and intelligence, one has to limit that. My Shiksha Guru here, temple president, he always talk about this beautiful line which is engraved in my consciousness, in my brain, is reduce your kshetra. Kshetra is you're dealing with this material world. The more you deal with the material world, you more you go away from God, because this material energy or material world, like when you ignite the fire, and again, bonfire we all know, so it takes the time to actually ignite the bonfire. and when it is ignited, you put the gasoline, or you put the the whatever is needed for that fire to burn. But on top, if you put water, what happens? All the work which you have done to ignite that fire will be spoiled, will be wasted. Because one side you are trying to ignite the fire, you want it so that it can actually give us the heat and energy. But on the other side, when we put the water, we actually minimize, or we remove the effects of whatever the previous work has been done. Similar way, when we practice spirituality, we try to be more prone towards spiritual way of seeing things, but we still continue our material endeavor in terms of dealing with this matter, not from maintenance point of view, but more from an enjoyment perspective. That actually is the problem, and that is what is being mentioned here in this verse, that one actually work on that aspect, that we want to actually spread, we want to work on that spiritual environment, and we want to maintain that spiritual hygiene, I will use that word, or spiritual consciousness, that will help us to actually remain firm and fixed. So in this case, Srila Prabhupada is writing in the purport, one has to get free from three modes of nature, which is Maya, is very difficult. Why? Because it's, when, for an example, you have one thread, if you want to break, you can easily break. Now the same thread, you put multiple layers, you have three, four, five, you like you put four layers of the thread, put it tightly, and you try to break it, it becomes difficult. Similar way, a stick which is small, you want to break it, it's easier to break. But when you put multiple ones together, and when you want to break it, doesn't happen. Similar way, we have been in this material world being covered by these three modes of material nature for millions and millions of lifetimes. So that layer is so thick, it is very easy, it's not very easy to penetrate that layer and then come to pure sattva, or mode of goodness. And this is what is being mentioned here. Srila Prabhupada is writing, even for the most highly educated person on the mundane plane, when we talk about this, which means on the material plane, it's all material knowledge, it is impossible to get out of the entanglement of Maya simply by theoretical knowledge. So when we think about acquiring knowledge is great, but that knowledge will have only benefit when we actually apply that in our life. So for an example, when we are when we are sick, we go to the doctor. You go to the best doctor. You hardly get an appointment, and finally you got the appointment. You get to see the doctor. Doctor knows your problem, and now he prescribes the perfect medicine. Before that, you tried so many doctors, nothing worked, and now you are at a specialist. And now he is giving you medicine. You come home and do not take the medicine. So one may say, why did you actually, first and foremost thing, spend here thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars to give it to the doctor through the insurance? On top of it, you had to go put an extra endeavor to get it. But if you don't take the medicine, what's the benefit? Similar thing, when we understand, when we try to read Bhagavad Gita, and we just theoretically understand, but we lack to apply that in our life. That's similar situation, which is having the medicine in a disease condition, but I do not want to take it. Many so-called spiritual post to be advanced but cannot surpass the modes. So it's not about the show off, it's not about putting a logo that I joined this process or that process, or I am a spiritualist, but it is all about the inner world. We have external world and we have an inner world. So what external world may see us in a different way, but internal world may be completely different. A lot of times we see there are great people, there are great performer. We talked about so many Bollywood actors and actresses of just few weeks back or few months back. Externally they are extremely successful, but inner world is just such a vacuum for them. And what a tragic death they have, or what a tragic end they go through, because the inner world is different from the external world. And spirituality is all about transforming the inner world, experiencing and understanding what are the challenges I have in the inner world, and how can I keep that inner world sublime and clean for me to practice spiritual life. And that's why you see a lot of spiritualists who may be spending so many years, so many hours practicing spiritual life, but if the inner world is not taken care of, very difficult to actually cross the modes of material nature. Because what are the symptoms of the mind? You cannot see the mind, you cannot measure the mind, and that's very difficult to actually understanding something or attacking something. It shouldn't affect me is very difficult when it is subtle. So what we do is, in this body we have a gross body, which is what we see. Within the gross body is a subtle body, which is composed of mind, intelligence, and ego. And within the subtle body is the soul. So, which means if I have to draw these circles on top of it, there is a soul, it is covered by the subtle body, which is mind, intelligence, and ego, and it is covered by these gross body. So, one has to come out of the gross body, then one has to get out of the subtle body, and then actually reach to the platform of the soul. But unless we are on this sensory platform, we cannot come to understand the subtle part, and until we cross the subtle part, we cannot come to the soul platform. And this is a very important part. One has to be on the transcendental position, which is going to come in Bhagavad Gita 7.14. So there are three gunas or three modes, which is the lowest is ignorance, above that is passion, above that is goodness, and above goodness is pure goodness, which is the transcendental position. And like I said, since time and immemorial, we are bound by these three modes of material nature. That's why we behave in a certain way. Every situation, any situation you bring in, and you bring 15 people, they will have different reaction to that, or they will behave differently, because they are all covered by different modes and mix of those modes, and again percentage. So when we practice Krishna consciousness while engaged in prescribed duties, when I say prescribed duty is whatever work we are doing, but we are engaging along with that in Krishna consciousness, which means no use of restraining or nigraha. What is it? Krishna consciousness helps one through one may engage in prescribed duties. Therefore, without being fully in Krishna consciousness, one should not give up his occupational duties, which we already covered. Better to be situated in one's position and try to attain Krishna consciousness under superior training. So, coming together like we are coming here, discussing, asking questions, and elaborating more on that is an important thing. And we do not want to become a so called yogi, where the challenge is that people think me to be advanced, but I'm still under the modes of material nature. So, what you see on the right hand side is very important. This is called as Navaveda Bhakti. So, what you see, there is first process called as Shravanam, which means hearing about the Lord, which we are doing now. Second is speaking about the Lord. Third is remembering the Lord. Fourth is accepting Lord as the master. And then fifth is accepting oneself as a friend or the servant of the Lord. Sixth is worshipping the Lord. Seventh is visiting holy places and surrendering oneself to the Lord. That way, it's a wholesome process. We can engage all our senses. One may be very interested to speak about the Lord. One may be interested in remembering the Lord. One may be interested in worshipping the Lord, or one may be interested in visiting holy places. Any of these nine processes can award you perfection, which means to go beyond the modes of material nature. Like what you see in this, um, but again, this is in the purport. Repetition of word indriyasta, which is mentioned in the verse of the senses, indicates all the senses. The knowledge senses, such as ear and its sense objects sound, and the action senses such as voice and its sense objects and words. Attraction and hatred, which is raga dvesha, which was mentioned in the verse, pleasure or discomfort to the individual are fixed firmly, not in the unsettled way in all these sense objects, right? They are very deep rooted, our samskaras. Like what you see on the top, which is attachment for what is forbidden by scripture. On the top picture on the right hand side, what you see is such as giving the gifts to others' wives, or seeing or touching their bodies. Because there is such a subtle lust within us, even after crossing the stage, even after crossing a certain age also, the tendency to enjoy opposite sex is very strong. And one or the other way, people want to somehow appease or appeal, or whatever way they want to attract other people in this world. And this is important. So desires come along with knowledge of positive features of doing so. So when these unwanted desires are there, they have to be covered by remembering God and Navaveda Bhakti, which we talked in the previous verse. And second is, one is the attachment, which is raga, and then second is dvesha, repulsion for what is prescribed by scripture. So one is which is forbidden by scripture, and second is which is prescribed by scriptures. So do's and don'ts, such as distributing gifts, to serving, seeing and touching the guru, the brahmana, the holy places and visitors. So here you see these boys wonderfully offering Dandavat Pranam to Srila Prabhupada, accepting him as Guru. And very interestingly, you see Srila Prabhupada, he is closed eyes. One time Srila Prabhupada was was giving a class. One news reporter came and asked, Swamiji, all these devotees are offering you, obeisances. They are offering you Dandavas Pranam like that. What do you think about it? Srila Prabhupada said, I am just a servant. Whatever they are offering, I am just taking their gratitude, taking their offering to my spiritual master, who in turns until he takes it to his spiritual master, and ultimately it goes back to Krishna. So hatred comes along with knowledge that speaking to saintly person is undesirable, and lack of knowledge of anything desirable in it. And that is why one has to actually come to that platform where the external world does not does not hamper our inner world. Like when you throw the stone in the water, it ripples. But the inner world, when the external situation come in our life, if the inner world is not affected, whatever someone may say, that is wonderful. On the surface level, there is a beautiful example. One time Gandhiji, he was a follower of Bhagavad Gita. So he was going in a boat, in a river, crossing the river. He was going in a boat, and there was one envious person. What he did is, he put out the paper from his pocket, and he started writing blaspheming words to Gandhiji. And he enveloped it, put the push pin, or put the paper pin, I don't know what they call it as, I forgot that. So he put that pin and gave it to Gandhiji. Gandhiji opened that, and he saw that paper. So what he did is, he threw the paper, and then he kept the pin with him. So what is this? This signifies, yet whatever is good in it, you take it, and whatever is bad, doesn't take it. And that guy, Gandhiji, was completely calm, but that guy who actually wrote, he was furious. He was thinking, Are, I gave him such bad words, wrote it to him. Didn't affect him. And that is very important. So when we think about these tendencies, these vasanas, which we are talking about, raga, right? We may be thinking superficially something is coming, but they are very deep rooted. And that's why one has to be very careful. And we see an example about Vishwamitra Muni. We see the example about Saubari Muni. Very powerful sages. We can't even do austerity to do maybe twice Ekadashi in a month. and that too we can't even avoid drinking water. We need other things which we can avoid. But here they are performing tapasya for thousands of years, because they were not in Kali Yuga, of course, so their life was much more higher, much more longer than us. They are doing tapasya for those many years and very extreme austerity, living in underwater and doing tapasya. But Saubari Muni, when he saw two fishes mating, he was agitated. When Vishwamitra Muni just heard the tinkling voice of the Apsara, and then he got bewildered. So this is very difficult in this world, but one has to go out of it. So attachment to what helps one attain one's goal, and hatred for opposite, which we read before. So what is attached to seeing a woman, which is, or a man, opposite object of eye, or hatred for those that obstruct that enjoyment. For an example, attracted to tasty and tender rice and dislike for hard rice. You see an example, this guy is so crazy about eating pizza and burger and fries, and this lady is running away, don't bring it to me. This is raga and dvesha. An attachment to hearing and seeing one's own sons or children, but dislike seeing or hearing other others sons of one's enemies. Oh, my child sings so well, he does so well, she does so well, but thinking others people children or others commitment, we feel, oh, I don't like that, right? So they are like thieves standing in front of the traveler on the road. What is this thing is person who is carrying the treasure within the inner world in the heart, and these raga and dvesha are like the thieves to take away our consciousness. That's why the person desiring the highest good should not fall under the control of desire and hatred, which is raga and dvesha, right? And like I mentioned, this world is filled with duality, which is pleasure, pain, attachment, aversion. So one should learn how to tolerate. Another point Srila Prabhupada important brings that free will is stronger than these samskaras or vasanas. So study of scriptures helps us to choose. You see, there are two paths here. They both look the same externally, but there are good choices and there are bad choices. And choosing material desires which are not unfavorable to God consciousness, or having good choices to actually read scriptures and practice devotional life based on that. So the same way, vasanas or samskaras of many past impression create a memory of previous like or dislike. Under certain condition and desire appear to act. Still, the jiva, which is us, is not powerless. We still have the power. What is that? We have a free will. Why free will is free? Because that is the only thing we have. And we can choose the free will, like you all standing here, sitting there together, trying to focus, keeping everything aside. Oh, I want to use this time to study Bhagavad Gita, which Krishna spoke to Arjuna. But another person may be thinking about, oh, let me just relax at home. I don't want to, this is Sunday. I want to just chill. I want to spend time with my friends. I want to hang around. So free will, same person can use that time for a different activity. It's not God is forcing us to do certain activity. So one can use the free will to choose scripture over material desires. So scriptures engage him beforehand in the worship of the Lord, through which one resists attraction and aversion and doesn't come to grief. One who resorts to a boat before falling into a deep current. This is the beautiful example which is given, such a serene one. So boat is like taking the shelter of scriptures, which is actually making us cross this river of material nations. So that is what this verse is talking about. And the focus of learning, which is what is a takeaway for this verse, cause of material engagement and how to get out. Unrestricted sense enjoyment is the cause of staying in this material world. One can get out of the following, one can get out by following rules and regulations of relevant revealed scriptures, which is sex enjoyment is allowed under the license of marriage ties, not an unrestricted sex or actually having an illicit sex. Explain there is always a chance of accident even on royal road. So as long as the material body is there, the necessity of material body are allowed, but under rules and regulations. Yet one should not rely upon the control of such allowances. Sense gratification under regulation may also lead one to go astray. For an example, sense gratification in marriage life. One attachment leads to all detachment. What? Attachment to Krishna consciousness, not attachment to this material world. Avoid one detachment. What is that detachment? To be detached from Krishna consciousness at any stage of life. To be attached to Krishna consciousness at any stage of life, actually. So, not detached. I think I wrote it incorrectly. I have to fix that. What is the whole purpose of all detachment? Ultimately, to become situated on the platform of Krishna consciousness, remembering Krishna, remembering God at every moment. That will help us to cross over the the river of material current. And that is what is actually this verse is talking about. Any questions or comments? Any reflections?
Yeah, I have one comment.
Please. Please.
Always I myself felt that, when every baby is born, they're so pure,
Yeah.
and yet some of the babies grow up and become scientists, and some become like you, right? And then some become villains in the world,
Mm,
politicians. You see the way they form. I was always thinking to myself, nobody told me. I thought, why would people become so bad and good, right? So it's
mm,
exactly the way you explained initially, that when it rains, it's extremely pure. When it touches the earth, based on where it touches, it gets into different shapes, right? If it falls in the lake, it's pure water, whereas
mm,
it falls into dirt, it gets muddy. So the way I look at it is, I think all of us are born really good, um, learning Bhagavad Gita and being in Krishna's Leela, right? So being in this would help us guide our path to be as pure as possible. May not be totally pure, but at least we can be pure as much as we can. It's just this one is very, very good. Actually, I like the all the explanations you have given.
Thank you, Prabhu. That's there in Srila Prabhupada's purport. The only thing which I did is I just put it in PowerPoint, but very
Yeah.
grateful for your comment, Prabhu. Anything else before we move to 35?
Prabhu, I just have one.
Yes.
It's not comment or some kind of question. Is for me.
Hmm.
So you said before like calm or krodha and all that.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
once we see outside, when you go outside, we are all social people. So
Hmm.
when you're going out and you see other people, they you cannot control that. But when you see other people that hurting animals openly out on the road or hurting other elderly people
Hmm.
by by their words or in bad behavior and
Hmm.
like disrespect and in that time the growth is already we cannot control the like anger.
Hmm.
How what to do at that time?
Though when we talk about the anger or growth, it has two significance or two things which are connected to that. First and foremost thing, it is generated by mode of passion, which means there is certain mode of passion which is triggering that. The second is it is neither beneficial to a person who is becoming angry, or neither it is beneficial to the other person who is listening. So a lot of times when certain people perform certain actions like that, when you actually become angry, it is neither helping you neither helping them. So does it mean you shouldn't become angry? The point which I'm trying to bring in here is that that same anger Hanumanji used to destroy Lanka, which means what? He used it in a constructive way because he was on the side of Lord Ram. So he wanted to remind Ravana, saying that you can imagine if one monkey from the army of Lord Ram can destroy your whole city, what will Lord Ram do? So he
Mhm.
used it in a constructive way. So when a person who is a spiritualist He uses, and at a very perfect level. I am not at that perfect level, I want to be very honest, so I cannot use my anger in constructive way, but I just want to spell out what is the ideal here. So when one is completely fixed in Krishna consciousness, where he is completely connected to Krishna, one can understand this anger should be used in a way which will help the other person, not that that person goes away. So if person is doing any of that activity, you becoming an angry part will not help him, will not stop him to do that activity. For an example, when Narada Muni came, when Mrigrari was trying to kill the animals, he did not give him a left and right, he showed him what the future looks like for him in terms of what activities he are doing. But and that transformed Mrigrari as well as Ratnakar. But that was because Narada Muni was at that platform. So the other person did not take it in a negative way, and again Narada Muni did not become angry on that person. So what world needs, that's what all the time say, is an example for people to follow. Because this world, it is like you have the bag of apples and there is one rotten apple. The earlier you recognize that and you disconnect that apple from other apples, the other apples are saved. But if you have hundreds of apples of in a box or whatever it is, in a sake, and there are 5 to 6 apples, and this current world situation is there are trillions of people or whatever number of population is there, and there is a huge sum of people who are spoiled, and they are spoiling the whole world. Does it mean that I am a good apple, I should not say anything, or I should isolate myself first and be an example for other people to follow, that this is how it should be taken? That is how I can think about, because we cannot control the world, we cannot change the world, but we can be an example and we be the part of the change, which means at least I showcase others how to live life, so that other people get inspired. I want to be like that person. That is how I can see it. But if the thought process is that I'll create a revolution and I will change the whole world, I'm sorry. We have a very limited life. We don't have time. We don't have even lot of influence. How much influence we have? We are very minute. The influence can happen at the leadership level, but we are not at that level. That does not mean we do not be part of the change. We can be part of the change by changing ourselves to be an example for others to follow. Make
Thank you.
sense?
Thank you, Prabhu.
I have
He's hard
one
to
comment.
control. He's
Please.
hard to control. But
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah. I have one comment on that actually. So I have an example where I grew up in a village with a couple of brothers, right? We are like three brothers and one sister. My one of my brother hates dogs. He doesn't let those dogs come into the house.
Mm.
Whenever it comes, he will just take it and throw away. And it's like a far 8, 9, 10 feet away. So I all those dogs come to me, and they are a bit dirty and they are street dogs. So I used
Mm.
to feed them and try to help them out, right? So we always had a kind of arguments, fights, all that. I used to really beg him and say, please don't hurt them. And I asked him, what is the problem? Why you are like after them? If you were one of them, if somebody is throwing, how would you feel, right? I used to have that challenge when I was like a little kid, right? We came to understanding that, hey, look, he doesn't like those dogs come inside the house. So what I would do is I actually train them to stay at one place. They don't come inside the house. I go feed them, and then
Mm.
they're all good. So maybe little thing you can do without argument or fights with somebody. That's what I would do. I'm sorry, I'm not recommending. It's hard to see people hurting animals, so it's
Yeah.
just whatever we could do to help situation would be nice.
Prabhu has seen so many.
Yesterday,
It's not even
yeah,
hurting. It's like they're throwing boiling water. They're
yeah,
putting like stones and all that. It's not only animals. The elderly
yeah,
people, like they're just.
yeah,
I mean, I don't know
yeah,
how
very
to
bad.
say.
I,
It's hard, but I
yeah, I
guess
know.
again you
Yes,
said we cannot do anything for the
yeah,
large moment, but this small
yeah,
change is big thing.
yeah. Yesterday, there was a dog owner who was in the airport and couldn't take the dog inside the plane. due to some paperwork they're supposed to do, and she ended up tying the dog to the the reception area, and she tried to fly. A lot of people watched, and they complained. Finally she was arrested, and the dog was actually taken over by that blue company. What is that? I forgot. Jet Blue or something. So they call with some name, and they adopted the dog forever. Now they're not giving dog back to that owner. So little help if you can do, it will be nice. Sorry, I thought I just shared that.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
This is good. This is good. Thank you. All this discussion is good. But the point which I want to bring in here is that, yes, some things are unavoidable. And I understand there is a compassion within our heart that the other person should not struggle. The other living entity, they are also the part and parcel of God. And we want to help them is good. And we have to be an example, because at the end, even if you're going to just go and tell that person in an angry way, it's not going to help that person either. So anger is not the solution for everything. It's actually being an example and being compassionate, praying for that soul is important. And whatever you can do, you do it, but do it in a way which is constructive, not destructive. That's all I wanted to share, Madhji.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Beautiful. So we are on. Thank you, Jyoti Mataji, for joining. We are on text 35. Let's read it together. Shreyan Swadharmo Viguna
Shreyan Swadharma Viguna
Paradharma Swa Anustitat
Paradharma Swa Anustitat
Swadharme Nidanam Shreya
Sudharme Nidanam Shreya
Paradharma Bhavaya Bhayavaha.
Paradharma Bhayavaha.
Translation, please. Who can read?
I can read.
Please.
It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than another's duty perfectly. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duty, for to follow another's path is dangerous.
Yeah, this is a very important words, but at the same time, one may not understand properly. That's why purport is very important. In the picture, I put this in the verse. I put the picture of Parshuram. How many of us know about Parshuram? We all know about Parshuram, right? So Parshuram is one of the, like, Dash avatars we call it. Parshuram is one of the avatars of Lord Vishnu. And when we talk about Parshuram, what was the varna of Parshuram? He was a Brahmana, but he took the role of Kshatriya because he is Vishnu, and we will talk about it, but in a little while. But a very important part which is being brought in here is one should perform his own prescribed duty rather than, even though if it is faulty, rather than taking up another's work. And I'll quote some example. So what you see on the left hand side picture, can someone tell me who's that boy? Any thoughts?
That's Ekalavya, right?
Ah, thank you, Madhaji. Thank you for being very attentive and remembering. So this is Eklavya. Now there is a very intricate story which I got to know about Eklavya, and I want to share that. So one time he approached Dronacharya, we all know, and he was rejected, saying that, oh no, you cannot study in my Gurukul, because because people are thinking he was from lower class. He was belonging to a Nishada family, which were at that time were paying taxes to Kaurava government, and they were actually not paying the taxes to Kaurava, which was being led by Dhritarashtra at that time. And if you all know, Dronacharya was living in there, this Rajya, or in a citizen, in his city. So that's why he was obliged about that part. That was the first reason he rejected. And second thing he was worried about is he may misuse it. And we will give an example about that. This is mentioned in Mahabharata. So one day, Pandavas were listening a dog howling sound, and they were searching what happened. So they found one dog which had 5-7 arrows in his mouth, and they went to report Dronacharya that, my dear Gurudev, we see this precarious situation. that somebody shot 4 or 5 arrows in the mouth of a dog and he's in a pain, he's crying. Dronacharya actually knew who that person is. So what he did is he called Eklavya and asked him, who did this? Eklavya said, I did it. So he told him, I told you not to do archery because you will use it for wrong purpose. You should use it for dharma. And he asked, from whom did you learn this archery? And if you all know about it, Eklavya created the what is that called? Is diorama? Is that word diorama where they create the kind of the symbol picture? Diorama, is that right? Is that the right word? Or a statue, whatever you call it as. So he
So
created a.
the
Huh?
story is a statue. The story is he created, builds Dronacharya's statue and
Ah,
practices archery.
statue is the right word. Yeah, thank you. So he created the statue, or he made a portrait and started learning from him. And that's the time when Dronacharya asked him, "You give me your thumb because thumb is needed for that one." So what is this thing in connection with this verse? Eklavya was a Shudra. He belonged to a Shudra family, and he wanted to come and change it to a Kshatriya dharma. And because a Shudra person just know the mentality of a Shudra, if he is brought into the mood of Kshatriya, he will actually create a big chaos. Similar way, if a person who is thinking with the Shudra mentality, if he is given the job of an administrator, don't want to quote the names here because all this is being recorded. But when lower mindset people are given the administrative position, they create much more higher damage than anybody else because the thought process they have is Shudra and they are given a position of the Kshatriya. And that's where they actually create a fall down of the whole community. And that's why it is very, very important. One has to understand that aspect. So, what you see in this verse, text 35, one should never imitate another's duty. It is very dangerous to give up one's own duty and try to follow someone else's path. It is far
Mm.
better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than another's duty perfectly. Destruction in course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duty, for to follow another's path is dangerous. Sorry. So, what is the practical application of this verse? Is the following three angles may help one understand why one should rather perform one's own duty, although imperfectly, than do another's, although one can do it perfectly. One is accepting another duty promotes whimsically and thus ultimately creates havoc, which I just shared a couple of minutes back. It creates an option to reject his duty if it proves uncomfortable and thus invites a fall to the platform of accepting and rejecting in terms of sense gratification. Second is accepting another's duty causes a social disruption, which means the prescribed duties are given not only for personal purification but also to have a stable society of different integrated parts. If one decides to change his activities, those who depend on him for certain needs may be let down because that person is not capable to handle that situation. Third, accepting another's duty is not as easy as one thinks. One's conditional tendencies run deeper than he realizes, which we talked in previous two verses. Giving up one's natural work is very difficult. Engaging in unnatural work promotes dissatisfaction, and thus the risk of fall down to immorality escalates. And that's the problem. If a person who is actually the lower nature has been promoted to a higher position, that person will try to actually do something which is of lower nature and spoils the position of that thing also. And we gave an example about Ekalavya, right? So any comments or reflections so far? on this verse?
I think here, yeah, I think here the swadharma basically means like what is one's
Just
capability or capacity, in the
yes.
sense that, what are you trained, what is your expertise, and that's what you need to deliver. Like if you try to pretend that you have a skill set that you're not trained in and try to deliver in that area or in that path, it's going to be miserable
Dangerous.
and destructive, and it also causes dissatisfaction, which kind of leads to depression, and goes into the negative path. I don't know about the story about the Ekalavya and the
Mm.
dog and things like that. I haven't heard
Um,
about it, but
yeah.
one of the things is, yeah, he is from Shudra
Mm.
community, but again, the community, the Shudra, Brahmana, or Kshatriya is not based on just because you are born into that family,
Correct.
right?
100%.
It is
Yes.
based about what capability you have and where you can definitely master. And again, this comes back to the whole premise of Krishna telling Arjuna that,
Mm.
you are the warrior, you have the expertise, you need to fight against the negative forces, that is Kauravas. So
Mm.
do not put down your weapons and
Mm.
not fight. So this comes back that this is your role, and this is what you have been working towards your life achievement or goal. So this is not the time to put down your weapons, because as he says, he wants to renunciate and go back into that
Mm.
yogi form, but that is not where you have practiced. Your
Correct.
practice is in fighting. So
Correct, Mataji. This is wonderful because that is the connection why Krishna is speaking this verse specifically to Arjuna and for us to learn. And one more clarification, it is not based on the capability, it is based on the mindset. A person, maybe, I'll give you an example. No, maybe before I give that example, one may be from mindset perspective, though he is born in Brahmana family, the mindset is Kshatriya, so then he is not a Brahmana because he took a birth in Brahmana. That does not make him Brahmana. That is what the perverted reflection people created in Hinduism, which created lot of chaos, and it is still going on lower class and all that stuff. That's not we are
yeah,
talking about. We are
yeah,
talking about Varna, which was set up by Krishna, and I know you clearly identified that. So it is not just on the capabilities, but it is on the mindset of the person. And here Dronacharya understood the mindset of Ekalavya, and that's why I quoted that example story from Mahabharata, where he actually did certain action on that front. And you see, even the case of Karna was born in a Kshatriya family. So based on his activities was also Kshatriya. But when he went, we were talking about where did that slide go? We were talking about Parshuram. Parshuram was actually his guru. So he went to Parshuram, and I think I quoted that story. So when he went to Parshuram, and he wanted to learn from Parshuram, and he was rejected everywhere, and he wanted to learn. So he gave a wrong identity to Parshuram, saying that I'm a Brahmana. And then because he would not teach anyone, any Kshatriya, this weapon science, right? Because he knew Kshatriyas create a lot of havoc. So it's not that whimsically started destroying this thing. There is a long story for that one, how his father was killed and all that stuff, um, by wrong means by these Kshatriyas. So then he didn't want to give the education to Kshatriyas. So he came as a Brahmana. And one time when Parshuram, after he was tired and he was relaxing in the lap of Karna, and there was a scorpion which was trying to bite and sucking blood out of the body of Karna, and Karna did not move. And then when Parshuram woke up by and he saw there was a scorpion biting him. Oh, you can't be a Brahmana because Brahmana does not have tolerance from physical perspective. They can do a mental tolerance, not the physical tolerance. So you did physical tolerance, you have to be a Kshatriya. And then he cursed them that when the right time come, you will not be able to remember these teachings which I have taught you there. And we see an example about Ravana. What was the birth of Ravana? He came, his mother, sorry, his father was from Brahmana family, and mother was from Rakshasa family, and they got married, and from them actually Ravana was born. So by birth he is Brahmana, but his activities are like Shudra. And that created so much havoc because he became a leader, he became a king, he was a Kshatriya. Not he was born as a Brahmana, he is a Shudra and he became a Kshatriya. He became a ruler. And that created much more chaos. And that's what is the whole point when we talk about practicing one's own varna, whatever position we are in, we all know our capabilities, we also understand our mindset. So not just capability, but with the mindset we understand where do I fit in. But yeah, this is wonderful. Any other comments? I know it's 11:26, so don't want to take next verse. Any other comments?
Prabhuji,
Just quickly
just
going back.
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go
Go
ahead.
ahead, mom.
I just wanted to say the same thing. Like, if we are in a right platform and if our intention is right towards that karma,
Hmm.
and we should go ahead. Otherwise, we should not. Like, there's so many things. Like Prahlad ji, when like
Yeah,
it wasn't in the Rakshas um,
correct.
cool, but then his intention was pure, so he become a great devotees and all time. So is the thing is now these days Varna or Varnashram and all that in India, it's or all over the world is not the way it was before, because that time was Satya Yoga and this is Kali Yoga. But we have seen so many people that coming from Shudra or even Brahmanas, they become Rakshas, and Shudras become like a good in a IPS officer and this and that. Like, it's the intention should be right.
Yeah,
The
that's
mindset
exactly the thing.
intention should be right. It's like the yug Shatya and Kali Yug is like total different ball game altogether. So
Yeah,
that's how people take advantage or even misuses the blaming game. But I think is that the end of the day, is your mind is pure, is your intention is pure, everything is going to be falling under Krishna's consciousness and
correct. Correct.
anything else.
Varnas is not equal to caste system which these guys have created on religion. That's completely wrong. It's not even anything in connection with Varnas for sure. But
It is exactly Prabhuji, Supraja Mataji actually mentioned the last classes that, like all these tapes that given by Gita, Bhagavad Gita, that's how you read it. That's the another thing. People read it differently, they understand differently. People who don't read it right, they were never going to get that right answer.
yeah, that is why we should not never do speculation and we should read. That's why
Yeah,
Srila Prabhupada gave the purports rather than just translation. If you read this verse, just the verse itself,
it's very
I,
confusing at some
yeah,
point
it's
because
confusing. I'll tell you when I read it, I go, I mean, hold on. What is the duty I have and what I'm supposed to follow? Oh, Krishna. That's why we need the guidance of acharyas, which is important.
thank
Beautiful.
you for giving this class is actually very good. Like, I
Thank
understand
you.
so much better. Thank you so much. You're doing a really good job.
Very grateful. So, Praja Mataji, you were saying something.
I was just saying that earlier you were talking about the gross body, subtle
Yeah,
body,
yeah.
and the consciousness. So I think the gross body is where we all know it's all influenced by Maya, and we kind of get that crow, the karma,
Hmm.
all that negative feelings. So
Hmm.
that is going to happen as long as you have the gross body, and subtle body is where what I call the inner voice, because every time you get the negative feelings or emotions, there's always that inner voice which tells you, which shows you
Hmm.
the mirror,
Hmm.
that what you're doing is right or wrong. But we always try to suppress that inner voice, and that's where the ego takes up, saying that no, whatever I'm thinking is the right way. I'm the ego. It's me, my me, I, me, and mine kind of an
Yeah.
attitude. So the more you give the opportunity, or the more you shine your inner voice, which kind of shows you the right path. I think that's where, like, where Mamita Mataji was saying that, when you see some cruelty or something bad happening, you get anger. But you get an anger at the same time, there is inner feeling in you that kind of identifies your emotion and tries to tell you, okay, what is the best way you can do? How can you deal with it? Right. So I think we need to build that. And that's where we call that inner engineering, or building ourselves,
Yeah,
our inner world.
yeah, very,
Sorry,
very
it was a
beautiful.
long-winded
No,
answer.
can I refine it further? Is that okay,
Sure,
Supraja?
sure. Yeah,
So, three modes of material nature affects the gross and subtle body both,
right.
because gross body cannot do anything unless there is a subtle body. Gross body just lives as long as the subtle body is there, right? So the three modes of material nature, and I want to share, I haven't shared it, and I just want to, we spoke about Maya, we talked about illusory energy of Maya, right? The illusory energy of the Lord. You know who is the spy for that illusory energy, Mataji? Any thoughts?
Did you say spy?
Spy or agent of that Maya. Do you know who is that?
Mm.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Sorry for asking a difficult question. Maya, mind is the agent of Maya.
Right. And mind is, yeah,
Subtle body. Mind is
right.
subtle
Yeah.
body, right? So that's how the subtle body is the one which is covered by three modes of material nature. And that actually, because mind is like the reins of the horse, and that guy can take anywhere. That's why, and again, is the mind a problem?